Okay, so last episode I said it was episode 19. This is episode 19. That was episode 18, so pretty sure I say like 5 different times last episode that it's episode 19. It is not. It is episode 18. This is episode 19. So here I am. Hi. This is episode 19 of my What If Civilization Started Over series. We're going to start today with a referendum in Siberia to rejoin the North Chinese team right here. And it's pretty split down the middle. So the conclusion that ends up being drawn out of this conflict is a division between the north and south parts of Siberia. So let's get the proper brush tool. And I think it's... yeah. Okay. So the line that's going to end up being drawn looks something like this. It's kind of hard to see because of the colors being similar. But in the end, this part of Siberia, basically all the valuable parts, will be going over to the North China team, as well as the Sakhalin Island, which makes Japan big mad because they're sworn enemies of the North Chinese, but they just kind of deal with it. But yeah, they get pretty large chunk of land, lots of resources in this area, in this like Manchuria area. Also, this is pretty populated area. Also, this is no longer a major city. Or it is. It's the capital, but it's not the capital anymore, obviously. Wonder if I could just cut off the sides to make it look... yeah, there we go. So that's the starting event of the video. Siberia exists, they're just not very like... They're not very powerful or big. They are still able to hold onto the Aleutian Islands, but they did lose their Alaska claim because of their current instability. So yeah, they're getting cooked. They're not having a merry old time. Now, scooting back over here to Scotland, who's been very big on the development of or exploration of Greenland. They're keeping going, but they can't really go much farther north than this for now, so they kind of turn their efforts elsewhere. Also, them owning all this is kind of like... they don't really own all this. They just have like a bunch of ports on the outside, and then they're kind of like, we claim all of this. It's kind of like how Spain and Portugal divided up the New World, where it was like, you get all of this, Portugal, and we get all of this. Like, so a lot of the territory was just Spain being like, mine. And that's kind of what Scotland's done with most of Greenland, except they have like ports along the outside, and nobody else is really fighting them for Greenland. So they're good. They're fine. However, from Greenland, from one of these ports in Iceland or Greenland or whatever, they're going to launch out a boat westward after reports of new land. This boat goes kind of south this way. It is heading for land, but then a rogue storm or whatever kind of gets them lost this way. So they kind of try to re-navigate to keep course. And they end up landing right here in Nova Scotia. And immediately they're like, wow, this is nicer than Greenland. Let's claim this area. And so more and more boats will arrive and develop this land. And soon the Scottish have a full-on claim over Nova Scotia. They do know it goes a little bit more inland, but they haven't really developed that. They're kind of just working on getting a outpost going. But news has reached the European continent that there might be a lot of land over here. And inherently the first to capitalize on this will be the Romans, who did invade Ireland. So it's a little easier for them to just shoot off a boat to go exploring. Their boat sailing along nice, and then it kind of goes down south a little bit. Misses Nova Scotia by quite a bit. Ends up at this place. Why am I forgetting? Is this Brunswick? Is this New Brunswick? I think it is. Oh no, wait, no, this is Newfoundland and Labrador, I think. I don't know. Sorry, Canada, I don't remember your provinces. But they land on this. Rome kind of struggles a bit, but you know, they claim the east part of this island thing. So now we have two powers having arrived in the New World, if you don't count whatever is going on in Siberia and Cambodia's Hawaiian claim. More on that later. But Rome has officially landed in this area. Now, nobody really knows how big this is. For all they know, it could just be like this. They have a vague idea that there's more land over here. For all they know, this is an island, and there's reports of lands and islands east of Greenland, but it's really cold and hard to develop, just like Greenland. So yeah, that's good. But news of this exploration craze has other European countries wanting to do similar things, including France, Rheims, even Sparta, and like the Old Empire over here. Though the Old Empire is kind of far, they have to cross quite a few hurdles. Same with Estonia over here. Prussia, they have dreams of doing that. Austria-Hungary wants to, but can't really because they're landlocked. They can't really get overseas territories. Yeah. However, what I mentioned about Estonia, they could try to send out boats out from Norway, but that's going to be really difficult, so they're going to do something else. And that something else is invading their neighbor. They're going to send boats across and navally siege this city right here, capturing it. And from there, they're going to connect up with their mainland and begin a all-out war with Scandinavia, moving along Norway's coast. Although taking time to take inland areas, they have the goal of just straight up taking over all of this, which is rude, but no one's going to do anything about it, so bummer. They move on in, they secure a lot of this land. Again, they have focus on the coasts, but actually, you know, they're pretty just balanced overall, I would say. A balanced invasion of Scandinavia, and they bull rush through the northern areas. They probably have a lot of intel on what that area is like because they control all this area. I hate these like random white specks that just... There we go. So yeah, but soon they begin to move pretty close to the capital of this country. And not wanting to, or kind of just trying to defer the inevitable bloodbath that's going to be. They're going to take a little bit of time to secure most of this Nordic coast over here. However, this will be maybe not a mistake, but it will cost them something, because Prussia, Danish Prussia, will enter the war. Also, kind of just capitalizing on the situation, they'll land up here around this Nordic coast area. They'll capture this major city in Norway. They'll move down the coast, and they'll capture this kind of peninsula thing in Sweden, kind of surrounding the capital city. And in combination with the Estonians, they will cut off the capital city from the rest of the country, which will lead to a major capitulation of this territory. A lot of this is going to go over to Prussia, Danish Prussia, mostly because Estonia doesn't want to have to hold on to all of it. However, they do want this major city down here, so before Prussia really gets in on it, they, I don't want to say flatten it, but they definitely get on it and mess everyone up. And in the end, Scandinavia is no more. They have been eaten by their neighbors, their rude neighbors. So, this peace treaty is just going to look... Actually, I'm going to change this border because it looks kind of ugly. We're going to do something like this. They'll get a little more inland area. And Prussia will get a little more coast down here. So Prussia gets that. Estonia gets all that. So now we can see how that looks. Estonia has a little more ability to go out and potentially do some exploring, some colonizing this way. So that's good for them. But now, moving south to Africa, as I mentioned last episode, these countries over here, they're doing pretty well. These countries are balling. However, a couple of these countries are not balling. Most notably, this country right here, the Nigeria country, they're dealing with struggles. These guys have been struggling for a while. I'll address that in a minute too. But mainly this green country down here. They're struggling with separatist movements within their country. And this will culminate in a large chunk of their northern areas, kind of over here, this region, breaking away. They'll surround this major city, and soon enough, all of this area is breaking away, and the movement's rapidly spreading eastward. It's growing very, very quickly. Eventually, the movement will completely encompass this city, and once they get there, it'll pretty much cut off the entire east side of the country, and very quickly, most of this country has defected to this new movement, which Nigeria is not very happy about. And once the entire north part of the country is like that, there are forces clashing along this area, but there's not much that can be really done. These guys are moving in pretty quickly. They'll reach this major city and capture it, eventually moving this way closer and closer to the coast. They'll reach this, I don't know what you would call it, I guess just coastline, capture it, and begin securing inland areas with aspirations of these two cities down here. They will not be able to get to this one, as happens very often in this series. A third party will come in and yoink all of this. They'll take all this land, including this major city, and then they'll freeze, basically. This area, I mean, these guys, they're anarchists. They don't really have function, but this major city falls under their control because these guys don't want to also fall into anarchy like them. But now they're continuing to fight up against the Nigeria country, which is not going great for Nigeria. So eventually they will agree to peace. And in that peace treaty, we'll give these guys a little more land. Something like... There we go. So this is the peace treaty. Their new capital will be right there in this city. So let's fix that now. Booyah. Wait. Oh, I have to do like that, and then There we go. So, new capital, new country down here in South Africa. It's pretty cool. However, following this, Nigeria is pretty battered, pretty weak. They aren't in the strongest of situations. They're going to be joining this country here, this like lavender country, which I'm going to change the color of that because it looks pretty similar to the square. So I'm going to do a little bit of that, and then Nigeria will unite into them. The capital will be the one that currently is, the one over here in like Ghana, I think, or maybe Ivory Coast, I don't know. This island also goes to them. I need to real quickly make that capital just a major city. Doing that. There we go. Perfecto. So, in West Africa, we see civil war, essentially, and a unification. Up here, these countries are doing fine, except for Egypt there. They're doing okay. They're not in, like, anarchy anymore, but they're still not doing great. Their entire economy is basically supported by the Romans, because Punt, as you can imagine, isn't keen on being pals with them. Over here now we will see this anarchist area, because the reason they haven't really been like invaded is because all their neighbors are pretty weak, like comparatively, but with some of the strength coming out of these coastal nations from their trade with Rome and Rheims, they're gonna decide to take action and start an invasion. It'll be Gabon and Angola who will sign a military alliance and begin moving straight in. Once I turn up the brush size. There we go. Gabon will be the first to move, kind of snaking along the border of the newly formed Nigerian country. They'll move on in and capture these two major cities, securing as much land as they can along this northern border. Pretty soon after, the Punt-aligned Ethiopia country will join on in to secure some land too. They don't take a whole lot before just kind of settling out of this conflict. But Gabon will keep moving. They'll blitz into this major city, securing that. And they'll kind of just sweep through this area. Free real estate. They'll take all of this before kind of having to stop so they can secure all this land under their control, which is difficult. Meanwhile, Angola will start to make their moving in kind of along their allies' border and along Botswana's border down here. They'll move on in and kind of eye the capital, which is basically just the largest major city of this country. It's not a really functional capital. They'll surround it, they'll take control of it, and they'll quickly seize control of all of this territory down here, which just leaves this area, which will fall under Tanzania's control. They will jump in and take all this. And Angola and Gabon, already up to their waists in land acquisition, they shouldn't expand anymore. So Tanzania's like, we'll take it. Not that they're very stable, they're having issues already, but we see the dissolution of this country. I'm going to change this border. This looks horrible. We're going to give a little bit of land to these guys. Not a lot, but like, do something like that. Does that look better? I guess. Maybe do a little something like, that. Does that look any better? There's no way to make it look good, but whatever. This is no longer a major city, so I'm gonna have to update that. Let's see. There we go. Alright. Major city gone. There's also this weird thing going on over here. Let me fix that color discrepancy for the map. And we're good. Okay, so update in West Africa. We have conflict here, this country's gone. I meant to do that a couple episodes ago, if I'm being honest, but I forgot, so oops. But now, moving over here to, well, actually, you know, we'll finish up Australia. Over here in Australia, this remaining piece of land will be officially divided amongst the countries in the continent. The one receiving the most land will be this native Australia country. They'll receive a chunk of land that looks something like this. I would say that's like a fifth of it. That's not the most. But they do get all the coastline, which is the most valuable land. The Java claim will expand a little bit too, about this much. Reaching over here. And then the biggest and most egregious expansion will be by the Borneo country, Filipino Borneo, who will take that land. So, seeing Australia fully divided up, it will look like this. Interesting. Hopefully. So that is how Australia is getting carved up now. As for New Zealand, I don't know what to do about New Zealand. I had an idea, but I don't know if I want to implement it. For now, we'll leave New Zealand open, undiscovered, unclaimed at least. Probably like a couple island guys from here landed there and was like, huh, New Zealand, and then just left, but I don't know. We'll leave them empty for now. But to close out this video, we're going to see a big war in Asia take place. And it all stems from this green country who is anarchist, but they're anarchist in a more stable way. It's messy, but they're going to basically go all out, and their all-out invasion starts over here in Siberia. They will begin moving down here in the more temperate areas towards the coastline. They will blitz there pretty fast, nearing their capital city, which they will eventually then secure, and after moving down and securing like all the temperate areas of the country, Siberia will essentially most of the country capitulates to them, essentially. Down here, all this. Goodbye, Siberia. Although I don't know why it's doing that. I think I had this problem before, so we're gonna undo all that. Actually, hold up. We're just gonna have them take almost the coastline. Like they do, but they don't, you know. So all that they take. Next, they will go after their western neighbors over here in Central Asia. They'll go after the purple team first because they're weaker, and they'll move on into the east part of the country, moving in west quickly, and then kind of getting the jump on the yellow team down here in the south, kind of moving into their more rural areas, capturing this major city, splitting the country in half, where they kind of just bombard this area bit by bit. And they hold out for a while, but eventually, after like probably a few years, the area falls over to the green team, and they'll continue their westward movement over here, continue moving this way. They capture this major city, and then they stop for a minute. They're looking very big. They're still anarchists, so they're not stable, but they're pulling off some mighty upsets here. Next, they will attack Estonia, the third most powerful country in the world. which is bananas. Why would you attack them? Well, this country isn't exactly sane, but, you know, whatever. They'll move on into, like, these... I think the Ural Mountains run, like, right here, but whatever. Geography. Who needs it? They'll pretty much take control of all this. Not that there's people living here. A lot of it's just claimed land anyways. So all they have to do is kind of march through and be like, mine. They'll secure all of the lands east of the Ural Mountains, which I think run through here. Right here. So they've kind of stopped at the mountains. So that's kind of been their through line. Don't cross the mountains. Next, they're going to begin their march into Tibet, which is very rough and damn near impossible. Their horses can't make it through the mountains, obviously, so they make some progress, but it's nothing. Also, why is this? Or is there just this random line? I don't know. They'll take all the westward parts that aren't super mountainous, though. I mean, they're still mountainous, but, like, comparatively, no. Finally, their front in Estonia stopped, and Estonia is sending reinforcements, but, like, they took area that they claimed. It's not the worst thing in the world, but they're still very mad. They attacked the third most powerful country in the world, which is not a smart idea if you want to have longevity. And they're going to make it even worse because they're going to attack the green team, the Caspian team down here. And they're going to attempt to march on in just like that. They surround this major city. They begin rushing in. They surround this major city and capture it. And they try to do the same thing with this one until reinforcements arrive. And from here, this is where the downfall of this country kicks into overdrive. I turned down the brush size. This green team pushes back the offensive here, and from all out along their border, they begin pushing back the green team en masse as they begin to fully collapse. The pushback, they surround this city and recapture it. I don't know why this city's like a darker color. Actually, I think that's because it was part of them. Yeah, that would have been a part of their country. Okay, you know what? We'll do something like this. I didn't keep the border for illogical reasons. So, green team / tan team forces will begin pushing back against this front. They'll recapture these major cities and just keep on pushing in. Big swath of troops. Oh, what was... These cities were Tibetan, weren't they? Ah, oh well. I guess they're Caspian now. Tibet will get all this land back. Actually, hold up. Maybe I should just undo everything, and that'll fix it. This is like them at their peak. Like they invaded into Estonia. They nearly squashed these two countries. They took a chunk out of Caspia. They mollywopped Tibet and Siberia. That's their peak. I'm going to see how much I can undo. And see if I can get the borders back. There we go. Wait. Yeah. Okay. I think everything's fine again. Okay. Yep. These are the original borders. Yeah, now they're going to get crumbled. Everybody reclaims their lost land, and then it's a free-for-all here. And the biggest offensive attacker is going to be Estonia, who's going to just start moving in. Unlike before, when they just claimed the land, here they're actually sending goons in on horseback to claim all the land. Not really up in this northern Arctic area, though. They're kind of just capturing the area south of it and being like, everything north of us that's pretty inhospitable up here in North Russia is ours. And they'll take a lot pretty quickly off the bat. Siberia, they're weak and they just got invaded pretty hard. They're basically in a state of anarchy, and so while that's going to happen, North China is just going to move in, just walk back in to Siberia and take control of territory. And they're welcomed with open arms because the whole Siberia project it has not been working. So China will go ahead and reclaim all of this. Everything south of here, like that. And from there they'll freeze, because they also have aspirations this way in the Green Team. All this free land that they could just walk on into, essentially, and take for themselves, because this country's so unstable that it's not vibing anymore. They were like a weak Mongol empire. So Tibet will also be one to scramble for a little bit of land. They'll move up here. If I could color it in right. They'll move up here and take some land. But not a whole lot, because they're mostly a mountainous country. They don't really have like super strong desire to acquire a bunch of this like Gobi Desert land. The yellow team will make some moves. They're going to be one of the biggest benefactors, as they're going to move on along the Tibetan border up here, eventually moving out and capturing this major city that you can't really see because the color's too similar. I'll fix it. They'll secure quite a lot. All that. Purple team will also move, but purple team's also pretty weak, so they're like able to get some land, but it doesn't really mean much. They're trying. They can't secure it very well, but they do have it for now. Green team is just getting gobbled up here. Next up, Estonia will make the greedy decision to claim everything north of this line here. Nobody else is really fighting them too hard for it, so they kind of just walk in and take it. They also claim some of these islands. They send like a guy on a sailboat in a really big parka or a really big jacket or whatever to claim it. However, as soon as they reach this border with Siberia, they just also start walking in and claiming some of the land. And this makes China pretty mad. They're not super pumped about the prospect of Estonia, a European country, being way out here. However, they do understand the potential for trade, so they're kind of like, we aren't super happy with it, but we'll let it happen. They'll move all the way out here before China is going to jump in and be like, okay, but you can't take all of the Siberian Arctic area over here in the Pacific. You can't claim all this. This is ours. And Siberia will agree, or Estonia will agree not to take any more land. They drop. The treaty looks like this, essentially, with China gaining control of all of this. All of this, Siberia goes over to, oh, I didn't color in Japan, did I? No, I don't think I did. These areas go over to North China once again. It's back in their control, including these islands, and including the Aleutians, which are going to be a pain to color in. I'm going to scroll all the way over here to the West Hemisphere. There we go. Why is it not coloring in? There we go. This is all once again North Chinese. They've really made a comeback. They've really bounced back pretty hard. I still think they're probably the fourth strongest country. I still think Estonia is bigger because like they took all this land. They're basically Russia now. They're massive. They dominate the Balkan Sea. They're a very powerful country. Stability in this eastern half, probably a little rough, but whatever. Over here, this is tricky. The yellow team will continue marching in, trying to secure as much of this as they possibly can. They will eventually reach over here to secure this little major city. And from there they will freeze. They will not annex any more land. Purple team will also make a few more acquisitions. But they also can't really do that much. Well, Estonia will make some moves down here a little bit. And since none of the countries around besides China can really hold on to this land, Estonia will take this lake here. I don't know what the name of the lake is. Baikal, I think? That might be a different lake. While North China will secure all of this area around them. So, actually, you know what? Maybe they should share the lake. You know, I kind of like that idea better. Okay, new plan. It's gonna look something like this. China will get the major city, which was, like I said, hardly a major city, but whatever. China will take all of this. All that land. Lots of free real estate for them. Actually, and then Estonia gets the rest. Which is going to make this border look horrendous. I just know it, but whatever. Yeah, there we go. And then if we zoom out, yeah, they just have this weird little enclave. You know what? It hurts my brain. This country's already pretty weak. I'm sorry, Lavender team. You're about to get got. Estonia will move forces along the Caucasia border. This is real time. You seeing me decide that to appease the border, Estonia's gonna invade this country. Whatever. They're probably gonna get invaded anyways. I had them on the chopping block. I had them on the chopping block to these guys, but we'll change up the plot a little bit. Estonia will capture their capital, move along the Caucasian border. Actually, now that I think about it, Caucasia is going to join the war and secure a little more land. But Estonia will wipe this country out. They'll take all of this. And now we see Estonia is massive. Absolutely gigantic. They dominate North Asia. Mostly because there's not a lot here. But they dominate it. This little chunk's going to go over to the Caucasia country, which probably makes Estonia a little mad. These two do not like each other, but whatever, they deal with it. But yeah, that is the end result of the lime country over here. Mongolia, essentially. Siberia, Mongolia. They're cooked. And with that, we have the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. This is real episode 19. Not last one. Last one was 18, and I was just dumb and I forgot the number of the video, so that's whatever. But thanks for watching episode 19. Like and subscribe and do all the fun stuff. Thanks for watching. Farewell. Goodbye.